All right, welcome back to the virtual classroom. We are in week 8 now. I'm actually recording in a regular classroom because I had a little microphone trouble earlier in the week, and then I recorded one version, and now I'm doing a new one that I think will have better sound. It'll still be a little echoey than you guys are used to if you're watching these at home, but still going to be very clear. You'll be able to understand exactly what I'm saying. So welcome back, and welcome to my live students here who are part of my video, but not technically. So we are in week 8, and I reminded you guys last week the cases are now with 4% each instead of 3%. I actually didn't put that in our intro slides here. What are we doing in week 8? It's all about tables, and tables are a way to take data that's already there and set it up with more functionality and formatting. So even though you're creating a table by going to the insert menu, you're not actually inserting anything per se, you're inserting functionality and formatting over content or data that already is there. I talked a lot of big game last week about how right after the first test I was going to go really easy on you, and that case was going to be very short. This one's actually even shorter. So these first 2 cases after the test are nice and easy on you. You're going to be learning brand new stuff. They're still very worthwhile cases, but they're short and easy, which is good because we're running a bit behind today in my live class because I showed up and the projector didn't work. So I got into another classroom, and then I was able to record in here, so we're doing that. Always be saving and always be closing. I need to keep reminding you of that, especially now that the cases are worth 4%. And let's get started. So I'm already in SAM here. I want to remind you as well, always go to the content section and check out what's going on that week. It gives you a nice summary, which we outline in the video as well anyway. And that's right here. And you'll see there, we're doing the same thing I was already talking about. And it reminds you that the cases are worth 4% each now. You'll have the quiz, same as usual. Let's go into SAM and get started. So I'm going to use my grading section. And I did want to remind you guys, like the way this sorts, and I believe I'm in student view. I had a few emails from students after I switched this up in week 7, and not every professor might do this. You may have had it this way since the beginning of the class. Some professors post all the cases all at once, and the way SAM sorts, it puts everything that starts with a 1 first on top, and then it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I had somebody at home trying to find the week 7 case, and they weren't, you just have to scroll down. I'm sorry that it sorts that way. It is a bit odd. But that's the way it is, and this week we're going to week 8, so let's go to the week 8 case and let's get started. Now last week, you had a bunch of support files. You had additional files that were part of the case. We're back to just instructions and case file this week, so you won't have to worry about that. So throw the instructions in the downloads. That's already there because I've already done this case on my computer. Throw the case file in there. And we'll get started. All right, now I paused the video for a second because you guys don't need to see me every single week at this point going in and editing the file name. You know every week you're going to have to get the start file and put a 2 in place of the 1. So I've already done that, and I've already opened it up, and let's get started. Donnie Cruz is a finance assistant at a hospital. He's trying to organize a bunch of data. Basically, that's what they're doing. And if you look at the first worksheet past the documentation sheet, you'll see you have some data here. You might notice these drop-down arrows that you really haven't seen before. We did encounter this in week 5. Most of you would have, unless you had different computer settings where you were importing data and the data came in the format of an Excel table. So this is already made to be a table, and we're going to deal with it at a very basic level. And then the next worksheet, you see some data that's sitting there that hasn't been formatted and turned into an Excel table yet. So then we're going to turn it into a table for that step. But the very first step actually has to do with freezing panes. Okay, panes mean just a section of the screen. It could be one row, it could be a bunch of rows, it could be one column, it could be a bunch of columns. I want to explain this very clearly to you guys because right now the top row is frozen. And this would make a lot more sense. As with a lot of the cases we do, we're learning a lot of tools that would be extremely beneficial when you get into the real world and you have Excel files with like thousands of records in them. In this situation, just like most of the SAM cases, they're not giving it to you in that kind of scale because it would just lead to more problems with the grading and it makes the files more cumbersome for Sam, I'm guessing. So, but this is another one of those cases where most of the examples we're doing, you could tell how extremely efficient they would make things if you had thousands of records. And this is one of those tools that does come in handy where when you scroll down past a certain point in a screen, you lose the stuff that's on top. And you could freeze multiple rows up here so you always know exactly which column you're in. So it's kind of a neat tool. And someone here has preemptively frozen the top row, and we don't need it frozen. So you need to go to the View tab and go to Freeze Panes and Unfreeze. So anytime something on a worksheet is frozen, the Unfreeze option will be there. Anytime you have the option to freeze stuff, and you can still freeze more stuff. You could still put your mouse somewhere and freeze, but this will unfreeze everything that's frozen. So for step one, that is literally all you have to do. Now, because we're going to have another step in the case about this, I want to give you a quick crash course on freezing panes. Right now, nothing is frozen. I scroll down, it scrolls past it. I scroll over, it scrolls right past it. Let's say I wanted to freeze the first 3 rows or the first 2 columns and the first 3 rows. You never highlight stuff to freeze it. This is not something that you're formatting, you're changing. You're not changing the content of it. You're just changing the way the screen works. That's all you're doing. How you do this, and I want to make this very clear because this is going to be on the quiz too. Anytime you want to freeze something and it isn't one of the auto options, because the auto options allows you to freeze the top row or the left, all the way to the left column. So you can freeze the first column or the first row automatically, no matter where your mouse is sitting. I could be sitting over here and freeze the first column or the first row. If I wanted to freeze more than that, it's a function of where your mouse is sitting. That's it. Do not highlight, do not start scrolling over stuff. So I'm saying, as an example, I want to freeze the left 2 columns and the top 3 rows. Where do I put my mouse? I haven't explained it yet, so you're probably wondering, I don't know, Mike. It's a function of where your mouse is sitting in the sense that everything above where you're sitting will be frozen if you go to Freeze Panes, and everything to the left of where you're sitting will be frozen if you go to Freeze Panes. So if you only wanted to freeze the top 2 rows, but no columns, you would sit in A3, and it will freeze everything above it. If you only wanted to freeze the left 2 columns, you would sit in C3. Now, why wouldn't you sit in C1? Well, because these are actually merged and centered. So you have to go to the first column where it's not merged and centered, so you can actually identify how many columns over you are. And you're going to be able to do that if you have merging and centering. My example, I want to freeze the top 3 rows and the left 2 columns, which means I need to be in C4. Everything above it will freeze, everything to the left. You don't highlight, you just go to Freeze Panes and you go Freeze Panes. And now when I scroll down, I never lose the top 3 rows. When I scroll over to the right, I never lose the left 2 columns. Now I'm going to unfreeze again because it did not say to do that, but that is how it works. Because on the quiz, you'll have to do more than just the left row or the top row. I'm going to unfreeze, and as we did in the first step, we already unfroze the top row, so that's done. So we're good to go. Let's go to step 2, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the next step on freezing rows. Now, let's talk about what this table thing is all about. We want to sort some data. If I go to the next worksheet, you'll see there is data here. And I do want to make it clear that there are some things that you can still do to data without making it a table. So this is just raw data that's sitting in these cells. And if I highlight a section of data and Excel notices that the top row is different than the stuff below it, it's probably going to recognize that that's the header row. I'm doing hand quotes right now, the header row. And I could go to data sort, and it will probably let me sort. If I wanted to sort by department, A to Z ascending, it would do that. Okay, it actually already was sorted by department. That was kind of a silly one to do. Service. Okay, so there, it resorted the whole table. You can see how beneficial that would be. Now, even though you can do that without it becoming a table, all this functionality is a lot better if it's made a table. So I'm going to undo both of those that I put in there because you don't want extra stuff in there. Delete that sort, click OK. That Sam's going to mark you down for. So let's go back. I'm just showing you guys, this is a case with a lot of examples. So this one has already been made a table. You get the alternating colors, and when you click on it, you get this design tab. That's only there if you've made it a table. You can see if I go over here and click in this section of data, there's no design tab because I haven't made it a table yet. So in the design tab, I can choose different styles. I can add rows. I can change the name over here in the left. They just want me to sort the data. But this first step is actually a trickier step because most people who have made a table know, okay, let's sort the data. Sort in ascending order by admission field. So they'll go and do the first one. Ascending means top to bottom, or bottom to top, sorry, bottom to top. So the bottom of the alphabet is the beginning. So you'd go A to Z. So we go A to Z, and it's sorted. You can see the little sort arrow there. I realize that the icon here has the sort arrow down, and that one has it up. The arrow doesn't indicate whether you're ascending or descending with the icon here, but it does when it's there. You can see if I switch that, see how it switches the arrow? It's kind of neat. So it tells you whether you're going ascending or descending. So I've done that sort, and then it says sort another sort. Do service ascending as well. So then I go to service, and I sort ascending. And did anybody notice what happened there? So right here, the little sort arrow that you had there disappeared. So anytime and that is the best way to sort, but only if you're doing one sort. Anytime you're doing a sort in a sort, you have to go to the data tab and use the sort button. And that allows you to build sorts into sorts on top of each other or underneath each, whatever. So you don't have to undo that one. You can clean it all up in here, just sitting anywhere in here because it knows how big the table is because it's been made a table. Just go to sort and it will highlight the table data. Get rid of that one that you put in there. If you were doing what I did as an example, just clean it up and add each of them sequentially the way the SAM instructions told you to. So we're going to sort by admission, A to Z, add level. We're going to sort by service, A to Z. Now, once I click OK, you're going to see the little sort arrows on both of those. And the order in which it's happening is how you put it in here. Sort first by this, then by this, then by this. You can do a bunch of them. So there you go. Multi-sort. This is a multi-sort. Anytime you're doing more than one sort, you can't just use the drop downs. You have to use the sort button. And I realize this has been made an Excel table and you have the design tab here, but how you manipulate the data is still all done from the data tab. So this is more about the formatting and the design and any kind of additional functionality you want to add to it, the design tab, where anytime you're doing stuff to the data, you're going to go back to the data tab and do it there. So that was step number 2, and you just learned a bunch about sorts. Now we're going to insert a total row. Okay, now you are not going to do this manually, and you're not going to go down to the bottom of the table and just start making it look like the picture. This, if you click in the table and go to design, is actually a tool. Just click total row. Done. And with the total row, anytime you have numerical data in there, you get these cool drop downs. Actually, I think you get the drop downs no matter what, but you can't do much with words. You could filter it probably. Yeah, no, that's about it. You can only use functions. And there are functions where you can search for words and stuff. But here we're just doing sum. So they said insert a total row and sum up the figures in each total. I think their exact words were use the total row to calculate the total values in each of those years. Do not insert the total row and go in here and go equals sum, parentheses, and then highlight the cells. You will get the right number. You will get the right number, but that's not what they asked you to do. They asked you to use the total row functionality to do it. So you get to choose from this whatever you want to do, and it's done. But if you look in the formula bar, you'll notice it looks a little different than a sum function would because it's using this table functionality to do the sum. So they refer to it as a subtotal, which is different than the subtotals we're going to do later in the case where you're subtotaling different fields in a table. So just don't overthink it. Don't go in there and worry about what it looks like. Just don't put auto sum in there. Just go in, use the drop down, sum up 2022. Go and use the drop down, sum up 2021. 2023 should be completed for you. Okay, moving on to step 4. We're going to do some conditional formatting. I think they just put this step in there just to show you that, hey, even though it's a table and you get this cool, slick table formatting, you can still go in there and do conditional formatting like you could on any other worksheet. So we're going to go, And we're going to highlight C4 to C11. And we're going to go back to the Home tab, same as conditional formatting that we've done before. We've done greater than, less than, all that kind of stuff. They want us to highlight duplicate values. So we are using top-bottom rules. Highlight cells, duplicate values, and they're letting us use the default color so we don't have to go into customize. We can just click OK. We're done with step 4. I love that we always have conditional formatting coming up in these cases. It's a great tool. You use it over and over again, so it's nice that it keeps coming up. I might have picked the cases because of that, some of them. Now we're going to switch to the next worksheet. So that's the way this case is going to work. You're going to knock off one worksheet at a time. You're going to finish the steps, save your file. I just hit Control S, and then move to the next worksheet. You won't even have to go back to that one. Make sure you did everything right. Make sure as you go through these steps that you're on the right worksheet. I had students in a couple sections do the wrong stuff to the wrong sheets, and then they had to go sort it all out, which wasn't a big deal. But remember, you always get 2 attempts. So here, we are going to switch to the cardiac care worksheet, and we're going to freeze the first column. So I've shown you how to freeze multiple columns and rows. That was that whole lesson at the beginning. This is one of those default ones. So without even changing where my mouse is, I can just go to the View tab, go to Freeze Panes, and go Freeze First Column. If it's the top row or first column, it doesn't matter where you're sitting. You're going to be able to make it work. So Freeze First Column. If I scroll over to the right, you're going to see, oh, cool, done. Okay, maybe they were planning on adding a bunch of data horizontally, and that's why they froze the first column. Or it's just a SAM case and they're making you do it, so you know how. So that's probably the better answer. So that was step 5. Step 6. And I like how they actually say format as a table. They don't say insert a table. They say format as a table, which is going to be done from the insert menu. So even though if you sat in it, it would probably figure out exactly what you want to make a table when you went to do it. It's always easier to highlight it first. So you could do one or the other, but I would highlight it first. I would go into Insert, and I go Table. And then I check, and I see A3 to F10. And I also notice that there's some headings across the top of the columns, and the checkbox for My Table Has Headers is checked, and you do want that checked. If your table doesn't have headers for some reason, you can make them. You can insert a header row and then make them. That's it. So you don't have to mess with the settings. As long as you highlighted the right cells, you click OK. It gives you all those drop-down arrows where you can sort and filter and do all kinds of stuff. And we're going to talk about filtering in this case too. I meant to put that actually in here. Oh, I did put it in there. Good. Okay. Yeah, because it's not a step on the case, but it is on the quiz and it might come up on the test. And there are these once in a while concepts where they're taught, but they're not evaluated on the case. This is the case where I'm going to teach you filtering. It'll take 2 minutes. We'll do it in a minute. We'll do it at the beginning of on the maternity sheet is where I do it. So this doesn't look the way it should, but you've made it a table and you've got the drop downs. And what they want you to do, back to the instructions, is make it gold table style medium 5. So you're going to go into, and how am I here already? Because I'm sitting on the table and it just made it in the design tab. When I click off the table, I lose the design tab, just like charts, just like header footer, just like all these different elements in an Excel file where you get the menu item on the ribbon when you're in it. So I'm going to go back in it. I'm going to go into here to the styles. I'm going to go to the medium category, which is the second one down, and it's 5 over. And you'll know as soon as you're on it because the colors match up, but make sure you don't pick one of these other ones. It's the one in the top row of the medium section, 5 over. Almost done with this step. This is a step a lot of students miss, or a part of a step. This right here, and I would copy and paste it just to be safe. I know it's only one word, but you don't want spaces or anything extra in there. So, holy cow, my mouse keeps doing that. I'm just going to Control C. Control C, I've copied that with no extra spaces. And now, last week I told you you could do names by highlighting things and going into the name box and all that stuff. That's not what we're doing here. This is a created table. If you go to the Design tab, it says Table Name right there in the left corner. Paste that in there. You should be able to use Control V if you have it copied. On occasion, some of the inputs in Excel don't let me use it, and I have to right-click paste. I don't know why. It's weird. Different computer. It's probably just my laptop. You can right click paste as well, hit enter. So you've created a table, you format it as a table, you've gone in here, pick the right style, and name the table. Moving on to step 6. Donnie wants to add a record to a table. He's missing a record. So this is really simple. There's nothing in the design tab that says add a record. And even if you right click, you can go into table. There's some options in here. We are going to right click to get into some stuff. But there's nothing in here where you would really add a record because all you have to do is be adjacent to the table. That's the simplest way to do it. I think there used to be a tool a long time ago where you could add record, but nobody ever used it. Like if they don't, all you have to do is be adjacent to the table. So if I'm down here like 3 or 4 lines away, even just 2 lines away, and I type something in, it just typed in that cell. If I'm right up against the table and I type something in, you'll notice after I hit enter, there is a border there. I've just added a row to the table where I can put stuff. So you can create the row like that if you want and delete it. You can also just paste the stuff right in. It's fine. I can undo that. The easiest way to do this, and you don't even have to type it in, is to sit right below the table, go here, highlight the data so there's no typing. This is a nice case to not have to type stuff. Highlight, copy, go over to Excel, highlight into the cells you're going into, and then you can either Control V and fix the formatting after, or you can, before you do it, so right click and fix the formatting as you're doing it. Either one is fine, and either one will insert the record as part of the table because you're doing it adjacent to the table. And at this point, you would have finally finished typing that out with no typos. See how much better that is to copy and paste? But when you copy and paste from the Word file and you're going into Excel, as I've been showing you since week 1, you want to take the formatting of Excel and put that on there. So that was an easy step. Now we're going to the maternity worksheet, maternity department. So save your file again, Control S, move on to maternity. Get onto the next sheet as soon as you're done with it. Don't accidentally stay in the one. So even though this isn't the next step, I am going to show you filtering right now because this is one of the longer ones so you can see things be filtered out. So let's say service, for example. I didn't want to see the ones that were listed as other for service. You can, from the data tab, go into filter. You have to select the range. That's right. See, I'm glad I did that because I almost forget that you have to do that. And which is why it's so much easier to do once you have the table set up from the dropdown. I hardly ever would use that filter. When I used to do a lot of filtering for the band stuff, when I had all these spreadsheets with all this merch stuff, I would go in here and I'd say, okay, these are all the different things I'm seeing. I'm going to unselect all actually, I want to see everything but other. So I just uncheck other and I click OK and those disappear. They're still there. You see how the numbers go blue? So when the numbers go blue, that's telling you that there's a filter turned on. There's data underneath there, it's just not showing, and it even has that little kind of bigger, slightly bigger margin there where it is. If I want to select all, I go back to all. Let's say I want to unselect all, I only want to see imaging. There you go. So that's the simplest form of how a filter works, but there's all kinds of stuff. You can search just for text. So if I want to look for anything that ends in ITY, I can just search for that, and it shows the non-maternity. That was the only one. You can do text filters, begins with, ends with. You can do number filters like equals to. It's kind of like conditional formatting, right? You can even go in here and do filters on top of filters with custom filtering, which gets a little tricky and people don't use it very often. This would be if you had a lot of data. So custom filtering is pretty much how it sounds. I was going to add a video this week in the week 8, right underneath the week 8 main video about custom filtering to show you an example of it. So I will still do that, but we're not going to get into it in this class. There's like thousands of things you can do in Excel, but that's filtering. Okay, and I want to clean it all up, so I go back to everything, the filter's off, we're done. All right, so I'm just showing you guys that. That is not a step in this case, but I wanted to make sure you understood how it works. What we're going to do here is sorting. And we've sorted before, but in this case, we're sorting for a specific reason. So we're going to do subtotals. Here's how subtotals work. When you have an Excel chunk of data that has been formatted as a table, you can't do subtotals in it because subtotals will appear after all the like, what do you call it? Give me 1 second. So when you have something set up as an Excel table, if you were to be able to subtotal it then, and then you could resort it, even though you can sort when it's not a table, but whatever, it would move the subtotals into the wrong location. So what I'm trying to explain is they want a subtotal by admission here. So if you want a subtotal by admission, all the deliveries should be up against each other. All the inpatients should be up against each other, and outpatients, same thing. So what you do is use the table functionality to sort it first, okay, A to Z. So D, and you can always check the pictures to make sure you're doing it right. This is a good case to check the pictures. So you can see, if I go down here, it's delivery, then inpatient, then outpatient. If after I put these subtotals on, you see how they're gonna look, I was able to then resort it and it was still a table, that would jack up the subtotals and everything be all screwed up. So what they make you do, and this is standard protocol, when you know you wanna do subtotals, you sort it out first, then you go to the design tab and you convert it back to a normal Excel range. So you just check that button. So that was part B. Convert to range. But it keeps all the formatting. So you still get that slick looking table formatting and the alternating stuff. And now, when I go to the data tab, I can click on subtotal. See, if I left that a table, which I can undo and go back. See, it's still a table now. I haven't converted to range yet. When you go to the data tab and it's still a table, won't let you do it. The reason it won't let you do it is because of what I just talked about. It doesn't want you to do these nice clean subtotals in the exact order they should be in, and then it gets all screwed up when you start redoing the table and filtering things. You shouldn't be able to filter stuff when it's subtotaled either, because subtotaling will allow you to collapse and expand it anyway. So I am going to convert to range, which now I've done twice because I was just showing you guys the example. But before you do that, it should already have been sorted. And then back up to step 8 here. Sort the table, convert to range, insert subtotals. So now, when I'm sitting in the table, I will be able to go to data, subtotals, and as usual, I know a lot of you guys might be on narrower monitors. If you're on a narrower monitor and it's narrow enough that it compresses all that into a submenu, it will be called outline. It'll be underneath the outline section. Always watch for that in my videos. Just look in the general area where I'm going in the menus and you will find it. So subtotals there, I can click on it because, it's not a range anymore. It says, hey, what the hell, what are you doing? Because subtotaling wants you to highlight it first. So I'm gonna go in here, see what it's trying to do? It's highlighting too much. So I'm gonna highlight this. So it auto highlighted for me, but there was too much there. Then when I go to subtotal with the table highlighted, it knew exactly what was going on right away. So I'm always showing you guys examples of how not to do it too, and that's particularly true in this case. Here, let's cancel out of that. I want this to be full screen. So highlight the range, the same table range that used to be an Excel table, formatted as a table, then go subtotal, and then you start at the top. Okay, what are we subtotaling? Well, we just sorted admission, and we're gonna do it for every different change in admission, so you have to change that. Everybody left that the same. It was like they just blew right over that. That's the most important part. And what you're subtotaling here will typically always match up with what you just sorted because you sorted for the purpose of subtotaling it. So we're gonna go and sort by admission. And this is actually already set to what we want because we're doing admission numbers. They're not dollar figures, they're numbers. I think I said earlier it's money. It's not money, it's just people. And we want to total it up. So we're gonna sum, and you could do, it's just like the table functionality. You have sum, min, max, all that stuff. And we want to do all 3 years, so we check those off. The functionality down here, you might have to play with that a little bit on the quiz if they tell you to, but you don't have to change this stuff. Very rarely will you have to, because I don't often do multi-subtotals within the same sheet. If I want to do a different set of subtotals, I'll just copy the sheet and do another set. So I never have to really uncheck the box that says replace current subtotals because I don't have any there anyway. We don't need page breaks between groups because we don't have enough data. And summary below data, yes, I do want that. So most of the time, you don't have to really mess with those. I just wanted to explain what they were. Make sure it's admission, sum, all 3 years checked, click OK, boom, you got subtotals. And the subtotals are cool because you can go to the second level and just see the totals and the grand total. You can see all of them again. You can expand and contract with these buttons here and just do one at a time. So the quiz will ask you to do that. The quiz will say only show the data from the inpatient, and it'll look like this. It'll already be compressed, and then you would go there and do it that way. Or there's one really convoluted question on the quiz that you'll know it when you get to it. It's like, use the buttons to compress the data. I think they want you to go up here. I think it's the same question, actually. And I think it's level 2, and then they want you to go and expand just one of them. Pretty sure it is the same question. You know what? I'll do that at the end of this case because it is an annoying question. I don't always do that, but I'll throw it in there at the end. So yeah, so Sam doesn't say to do any of that. So once you do them, you leave them fully expanded and you save your file and you move on to the next step. I don't think you're leaving this worksheet quite yet. Oh, no, you are. Yeah, that was it. That's it for the maternity sheet, literally. So switch to the psychiatric sheet. So we're going to save the file again. Switch to the next worksheet. We're done with 3 now. We got a couple more. That's it. I told you guys this isn't a long case. The data bars. Oh, wait, no. This part. So switch to the psychiatric worksheet and remove the duplicate records. So we highlighted duplicate records at the beginning. And again, all these tools, like you could see how cool that would be if you had thousands and thousands of records and you wanted to highlight them based on what they were. And then you can actually use a custom filter to sort based on the color. It's really cool. So this time we're going to remove duplicate records. And you can remove duplicates based on the fact that it's duplicated all the way across all the columns in the table or just 1 or 2. And this is a table tool. So we're going to click our mouse in the table, wherever, go to design, and there'll be a tool that says remove duplicates right there. If you can't find it, it's because you're not on the table and you're not in the design tab. Remove duplicates. You're not removing it from every column. Okay, you're only doing the admission and service column. So you can uncheck the top column and then the 3 years, and the instructions tell you that. It says only the admission and service column. When you click OK, and you leave it checked, I already did it, but you leave it checked that your table has headers, that's fine. You know it does, because you can see them. 1 duplicate, that's it. 1 duplicate value removed, we're done. That's a cool tool. And again, would be way cooler if you had a crap load of data, like tons of it, and nobody's going to go through and try and find, well, you could sort it actually to find the duplicates, and you could filter it and stuff like that. But you don't know what duplicates, you don't know which are duplicates if you filter, that just filters. So that tool is a necessary tool. You would never want to go through thousands of records and do that manually. Then they want you to adjust. And I really like this step because I've shown you in other cases. Like, let's go back to the first worksheet just as an example. You guys can stay on your worksheet. Remember how I put this conditional formatting here? If I go to the Home tab and I have it highlighted, it will come up automatically. If you don't highlight the stuff with conditional formatting and you want to see the rule, when you go to Manage Rules, it doesn't always come up because it always defaults to current selection. So then you could go to this worksheet and it will come up. So whatever, here's this rule. Let's say you wanted to change this and you knew it wasn't done right. If you go into these same cells and just go in and redo it, it will create another rule. And Sam will mark it wrong because Sam will see that there's 2 rules. The real world would not mark it wrong, but Sam will. So this is kind of a negative thing because you're being graded by Sam, so you don't want to do that. And I think I showed you this the first time I taught it. Maybe I didn't. So I'm showing you guys now because you'll have conditional formatting on the final test. If you mess up the rule, go into Manage Rules and get rid of it, or go into Manage Rules and edit it. Now here's what's funny. On this worksheet where there's data bars don't work like that. How would you put in data bars? You'd highlight the cells, you'd go in here and you'd go to data bars and you'd pick your data bar. So somebody in my other class pointed out to me, he's like, wait a second, didn't you say in one of the lectures, if you do it that way, it creates another conditional format rule and then you got the one on top of the other and then Sam marks it wrong. Yes, I did say that, but that doesn't apply to this stuff. The data bars, the color sets, the icon scales. So which means you do not have to go in here, which is what I did. The first time I did the case, I got this wrong. I went in here, I clicked edit rule, and they said solid fill green. So I'm like, okay, solid fill. And then I choose some random green. This looked the most green to me, green, right? Actually, I might have chosen that one. Maybe that's why I got it wrong. I might have chosen light green. No, I'm pretty sure I chose the right green. And then it marked it wrong. Because the green, and I believe I know why, so I'm going to cancel that. The green that you choose when you insert it from here under solid fill is actually a tiny bit different than the green in the standard color palette. And I'm annoyed when I get stuff wrong in SAM when it's not, it's like, hey, because this is, to me, the proper way to teach people to do it. But I didn't know that you could just highlight the cells with the conditional formatting data bars in them, go here, go to here, choose solid fill green, done. When I go back to manage rules now, there will not be an extra rule. It will have changed that one to green. I'm sorry to take a really simple step and explain all kinds of stuff around it, but it kind of needs to be that way because I've taught it both ways. So when you're doing stuff from here, and I mean, you can go and manage it and edit it. That's fine, as opposed to making a new one and then you'll have two of them. If you want to just change the color and the thing's already in there, this will just write right over top of it. It's just done. That's your step. So highlight them here, data bars, solid fill green. You do not have to go into manage rules, even though I've taught you to do that. For data bars, it's totally fine to do it that way. And it did say green when I hovered over it. It was solid fill green. So that was step number 10. And now I'm almost done. Like I'm really close here. So Donnie wants to calculate total admissions for the hospital for each year. Switch to the all departments worksheet. So that was it. Just those two quick things for psychiatric. So I will save and go to the final worksheet. And this one's a little longer. You could see this is where freezing the top 3 rows would be really helpful. It doesn't tell you to do that, so don't do that. But if you scroll down, right, you can see the top 3 rows and they'd still be there. This has a triple sort going on. If we go to data sort, oh yeah, right. Sit in the table, go to data sort. Okay, you can see there's already a filter on. What are they filtering? I don't even know. Well, it's just shaded, yeah. So then, don't mess with any of that stuff. I was just showing you guys some stuff. Only do what it says with Sam. Donnie wants to calculate the total admissions for the hospital. Switch to the all departments worksheet. And D40 uses some function with a structured reference. Same thing here. Same thing here. Okay, so what they're talking about is this. Let's say I wanted to reference this cell from the table. This is an Excel table. You know what it is. You click on it. You got the design tab. What cell was that? What is that? C25. If I go equals C25, it works. Shows what's in that cell. But there is a better way to do it, and it's kind of along the same lines as naming ranges and making things more efficient for yourself and just using the tools in Excel that create the most efficiency. Because if I were to move this, it would still be referencing C25 because I didn't make it absolute. So I'm going to show you something where you don't have to make it absolute and it will move with it and you can still scroll it over without having to make it absolute. So this is really cool. So it wants you to do totals right here. Total admissions for 21, 22, and 23. So most people in the class, even after watching me show them how to do it, went like this, and they looked at D and they went up and they're like, okay, so D4 down to D38, right? D4 to D38, and then they turned it in and then they sat there for like 20 minutes trying to figure out, I didn't do D38, trying to figure out why it was marked wrong because it said use structured references. So the best way to do this is to pick them up with your mouse. So start the parenthesis, go up in that column, start in D4, highlight down to 38, and then look at the formula bar. Take a minute. You can pause the video and look at that. You don't have to memorize how to type this in. This is saying that in this table, from that column, you're taking everything that's in there. It's not a specific amount. You're just taking the whole chunk. You hit enter, get the same exact answer, except you're using a structured reference. So we will have a case next week, which is a bit of a doozy, and it's a good one, where you're going to do all these cool functions. We're getting back into functions next week, and we're doing a lot of functions in functions and nesting, and everything's going to be done with structured references. All you have to do to make sure you get structured references from a table is go pick it up with your mouse from the table. That way you don't have to type it out, and you get the structured reference. And, I mean, I could do it 2 more times. You could watch that part in the video. You could just scroll that right over. And if you look at each of these and look up in the formula bar, it got a structured reference for each one. Now, final step, and then we're done. And then I'm going to do that quiz question at the very end after we do the grading. Donnie wants to, and notice, like for steps like that, and this has been going on since week 1 in SAM, they don't show you what's in the formula bar. They just want you to do it the right way. And you're not doing this from a book. You have a professor teaching you how to do it, so that's what it is. Final step is 12. Add another column for 2024 that we're about to put data in. So this is pretty cool because Excel is actually going to auto-complete the year. And I don't know that it did this in 2016. I don't remember it doing this. So if you want to add another column to the right side of the table, just click anywhere in the furthest right column, right-click, insert, table column to right. You can do the left too. When I do that, it even knows that it should be 2024. It auto-completes the year across through the table without even having to go up there and do autofill. It's pretty sweet. Save your file one last time because that was the final worksheet. Close it up and we're going to submit this. I'm going to pause the video so you don't have to watch me doing all that. Okay, so I got it there. Open it up. Come on. Open. Man, my computer likes to be slow when I'm recording. There you go. So you have been given a nice, slightly echoier, that's a good word to make up, a slight, more echoed presentation because I'm in a full classroom. But it's just like any of the other weekly videos. The audio is just not as tight DJ sounding, which I love. And we got 100%. I'm going to run over to Sam and do that one quiz question I was mentioning. And this is a good reminder that you should be doing these quizzes every week. Like I still see some of you just don't even bother with them. Like I know 1% doesn't seem like a lot, but 1% adds up when you put all the quizzes together. It's like an entire grade level on your final mark. So do the quizzes. And remember, if you can't get it, you can pull the training up right next to it, which I might actually have to do for this question because I keep messing it up. So if you get the quiz pulled up and you start it, and you determine that you want to pull the training up, remember the deal, you open up another SAM window and you pull the training up from the other window. That way it doesn't overwrite all the work you just did on your quiz. So we go here, go back to SAM assignments. Are we still in student view? Wow, this is just painfully slow. Switch to student view. Mine's a little bit different than yours. Maybe that's why it's slower, I don't know. Oh my goodness. Go to my grading section, go to week 8 training. So as long as you do it from the other window, then you will have both the quiz and the training opened up. Now I might not have to go to the training, we'll see. But the question I'm talking about is, let's find it. Oh, that might be it right there, actually. Yeah, this is it. Use a row level button to collapse the rows to display only subtotals and the grand total. So I showed you in the lecture that subtotals and grand total together would be the second one in the middle because this would just show the grand total. Or maybe it's the other way around. No, I think that's right. Then use a show details button, which are these lower ones down here. I never used those names. And it's annoying to have these weird names for stuff that when you hover over it, I don't think if I hovered over that in SAM, or in Excel, sorry. Where are those subtotals under psychiatry? No, maternity. Yeah, see, it doesn't tell you show details. And I taught you at the beginning of the class, if you want to know what a button does, just hover over it and it tells you. But that doesn't always work. But it wants you to show additional detail, but only for the appliances subcategory. So then you expand there. So that's actually not that bad of a question. And which one, while I'm at it, since I'm doing so much today, 3 is all the data. That's right. So 1 is just the grand total, subtotals, all the data. So it is in the order you would think it would be in. The other questions are pretty user-friendly, but again, guys, the answers are in the training. So it's not like you need me to be doing this every week. I just thought I'd give you that freebie this week. Always get a 70 on the quiz. Remember, you can take up as many times as you want. Stop skipping them, please. That's one of the reasons I brought this up. And that's it for week 8. We will see you next week.